There is something that needs to be said, something that can no longer be ignored. What exists here goes beyond what simple words can explain. It's intense, it's real, and it has been kept for too long. It can't be hidden anymore. It's you. It has always been you. For a long time, everything was suffocated, kept in silence. Every word that wasn't said, every gesture that was stuck in the air, felt heavy like a storm that never passed. There is an urgent need to let this out, because hiding it any longer is becoming unbearable. It's no longer a choice. It's a truth that needs to come to light. It has always been so clear, so evident, even when everything was denied, even when fear screamed to run away. It can't be avoided anymore. It's impossible to ignore the way the eyes sparkle when you're near, or how the heart races even with a simple thought. And in the midst of this comes the question, how did you not notice? Did you not see the little signs at some point? Or did you notice but preferred to pretend nothing was happening? Enough of running from this truth. What is felt cannot be erased, no matter how hard one tries. Maybe you don't know how much this has cost, how much every attempt to keep this feeling inside has hurt silently. It's like an internal battle, a war between reason and heart, where the heart always wins. But now what? What happens when this is put out there? Is there space to listen, to understand? Or is all of this just going to fall into emptiness? But it's no longer a choice. What is stored needs to be said. With each passing day, this weight grows. It's like a flame that never goes out, even when you try to smother it. That flame is you. It always has been. There's no more hiding, no pretending that this isn't here, burning, transforming everything around. The truth is simple. Though so difficult to say, you are the reason for all of this. The silence, which once seemed like protection, is now like a prison. Every moment, every day that passed without this being said, was like a piece of life slipping away without being truly lived. Because in the end, everything leads back to you. Everything. There isn't a single moment of peace when this feeling is ignored. And maybe you will never understand how strong it is, how deeply it is rooted. But you need to know. Even if there is no reciprocity, even if nothing changes, it's impossible to continue like this. You have become part of every thought, every dream, every plan that was never spoken out loud. You are in everything, like a secret that insists on screaming but has been silenced for so long, and now it's impossible to keep living without you knowing. It's not about expecting something from you. It's not about a demand or a desire for something impossible. It's simply about being honest with what is here, within every heartbeat. Some people say that time heals all, that with time things pass, but time hasn't healed this. On the contrary, it has only made it grow. With every moment, with every glance, with every word exchanged, the feeling has only deepened, becoming something impossible to ignore. There's no more pretending that this doesn't exist. There's no more continuing to be a shadow of what is truly here. It needs to be said. It's scary, yes, because there's no way to predict your reaction. There's no way to know what it will mean to you. Maybe you'll remain silent, maybe you won't say anything, maybe it will change everything, or maybe it won't change anything. But what matters in the end is not what will happen afterward. It's about now. It's about voicing what could never be said. It's about taking a step towards the truth, even if that truth is hard to hear. Do you have any idea how difficult this has been? How many times the urge to speak was suppressed? How many nights were spent thinking about what to say, how to say it, how it might change everything? It wasn't easy. It's not easy. But now the time has come to be honest, because keeping it in any longer is impossible. It's consuming everything, and there's only one way to relieve this burden, by telling the truth. You are more than just a person. You are an impact. You are the kind of presence that transforms the environment, that makes everything seem different. And that's why keeping this feeling inside was so painful. Because it's not something small, it's not something that can be ignored. It's something that grew naturally but inevitably. And it's impossible not to wonder, did you never notice? Did you, at any point, not see how everything changed around you? Or was it all just an illusion created by someone who felt so much and didn't know how to deal with it? It might seem dramatic, even exaggerated, but it's not. It's just real. It's just what happens when someone feels something so deep that they can no longer keep it to themselves. The truth is that this has already passed the point of being controllable. It's no longer something that can be hidden or ignored, and that's why you need to know. That's why, even with fear, even with doubt, even not knowing what will come next, this is being said now. Because in the end, not saying it would be worse. So what remains now is you and your reaction. Because what is on this side is already clear. The feeling is exposed, the truth has been told. There's nothing left to hide, no more secrets. Now everything depends on how you will absorb this, on how this will make sense to you and or won't. But that doesn't matter as much as it seems. What matters is that, finally, the truth is here, without barriers, without masks, without excuses, just the truth. You are all of this and more, you always have been, and now you know. Now that everything has been laid out, the only certainty that exists is the relief of no longer hiding. For so long this was a burden, something difficult to carry alone. But even with this relief, there is still uncertainty. Uncertainty about what this means to you, about how you are processing all of this, about whether there is something that can or should change between us. Because deep down, the intention was never to press or cause discomfort, but to be honest. And sometimes being honest is scary, because the truth has enormous power to transform things, for better or for worse. It's strange to think about how all this began. It wasn't something sudden. It was something that grew over time, slowly, almost silently. At first, they were small moments, almost imperceptible, like the way you laughed at some silly joke or the way you looked at something you liked. Then, there were the bigger details, the conversations that stayed in memory for days, the words that seemed more important than they should have. And before it was possible to realize, this feeling was already there, solid, undeniable, impossible to forget. There is no denying that there were moments when the desire to give up was great, not because the feeling was weak, but because the fear was strong. Fear of ruining what already exists, fear of being rejected, fear of losing even what one already has. But no matter how many attempts there were to move on, to pretend that none of this was real, nothing worked. You were always there, in the mind, in the heart, in the thoughts that arose at the most unexpected moments. You became an inevitable part of everything, as if it were impossible to live a day without in some way feeling your presence. And now that everything has been said, another question arises. How to move on after this? What happens now? Because in reality there is no going back. There is no way to erase the words that were said, nor to pretend that this didn't happen. You know now. And that changes everything, perhaps not for you, but for the person who carries this feeling, it changes completely. Because finally the weight of silence is no longer there. But is this enough? Now that you know, will anything really change? As frightening as it is, there is no regret. Even if the response is not as expected, even if nothing turns out as imagined, it was still the right thing to do. Because keeping this any longer would be like suffocating an important part of oneself. And in the end, no one can live fully while hiding who they really are or what they really feel. The truth, no matter how difficult it is, will always be better than the silence. But at the same time, there is an enormous vulnerability in putting everything out there. Because now it's all in your hands. Everything depends on how you will react, on what you will do with this information. And it's scary because there's no control over what you feel or how you will deal with it. Maybe you need time to process. Maybe you already have your answer. Or maybe nothing changes for you. And all of this is valid because feelings cannot be forced. But even so, the uncertainty hurts. Knowing that the next step is out of control, that now everything depends on you, is something difficult to accept but necessary. Even so, there is something liberating about finally being honest, because for the first time, there are no more masks, no more barriers. What was kept for so long is now clear, exposed, real. And even if it comes with fear, with doubts, with insecurities, it is still better than being trapped in silence, because silence can protect, but it can also destroy. And now, the silence is over. The truth is here, in front of you, waiting to be heard and perhaps understood. There is something in you that is different from everything else. It's not just about how you are, but about how you make other people feel. There is a light, an energy, something that attracts, that transforms, that leaves a mark. And that is why it was so difficult to keep this feeling, because you are not someone who goes unnoticed. You are someone who leaves an impact, who changes everything around you, without even realizing it. And maybe you will never know how much that means, how much that affects those near you. But now at least you know how it affected here, how it changed everything on this side. Maybe you're wondering why this was kept for so long, and the answer is simple: fear. Fear of being vulnerable, fear of being rejected, fear of losing what already exists. Because when someone means so much, the thought of losing that person is unbearable, and for a long time it seemed easier to live with the weight of silence than to risk and lose everything. But over time, the silence became unbearable. Keeping this feeling started to hurt more than the fear of losing it, and so the time has come to tell the truth, even if it means risking losing everything. Now everything is clear. There are no more secrets, no more doubts. What was just a thought, a desire, a dream is now a confession, and with that comes freedom, but also uncertainty. Because as much as this has been said, there is still so much that is unknown. What are you thinking now? How has this affected you? Does this mean something to you, or is it just a one-sided truth? These questions have no answer, at least not yet. But even without answers, there is still something powerful in finally being honest. As much as this is a risk, as much as there is fear, it is still worth it. Because feelings like this don't come up every day. And when they do, they need to be acknowledged, they need to be lived, they need to be spoken. Even if the outcome is not what was expected, it is still worth fighting for what is real, for what is true. And now that has been done. Now the truth is here, ready to be faced, to be lived, to be whatever it needs to be. From here on out, everything depends on you. There is nothing more that can be done from this side. All the cards have been laid on the table, all the words have been spoken. Now it is up to you to decide what to do with this. Whatever your choice, whatever your response, know that there are no regrets. Because in the end, telling the truth will always be the best choice. It will always be the right path. Saying all of this wasn't easy. In fact, it was one of the hardest things ever done. But at the same time, it was liberating. Because now there are no more doubts, no more secrets. What was hidden is now known. And as terrifying as that may be, it is still better than continuing to live in the shadow of what could have been. Now at least there is clarity, and with clarity comes freedom. Now everything is exposed, laid out before you. There is no more room for doubts or vague interpretations. This feeling, which has been kept for so long, is here, bare and real. It is not an expectation, it is not a request, and it is not an obligation for you. It is simply what it is, a confession, a sincere desire to lift this weight that has hurt for so long, to let you know the truth because you deserve to know. You have always had this ability to transform everything around you, to bring a different shine, to make the simplest things seem unique, and perhaps that is what made everything more intense, harder to ignore. It is not easy to explain what you mean because there are not enough words for it, but the fact is that you are present in every thought, in every dream, in every moment of silence. This went beyond what could be controlled. And now you know. From here on, everything is in your hands. What will you do with it? This is not a request for reciprocity or a charge, but just a call for reflection. Because the truth is, even if nothing changes for you, everything has changed for the person who needed to get this out. There are no more masks, no more heavy silences. And even though the fear is still present, there is also a sense of relief. Because now it's real, now it's true. If you've been through this, if you've kept something so strong inside that it seemed impossible to say it out loud, then you know how much it consumes. And maybe upon hearing this truth you can reflect on your own feelings, on the truths that perhaps you have also kept. Because in the end we all want to be heard. We all want someone to truly see us with everything we are and feel. And now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this message? Have you been through something similar? Share your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you think. Leave your like if this story touched you in some way, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Let's continue together on this journey of truths, feelings, and real connections. After all, stories like this deserve to be shared, because we all carry something that deserves to be said. Did you get this far? Then comment, I value the truth. I'm waiting for what you have to say.